Welcome back to Backyard Cars. And today we're going to get our 1978 Chevy K10 back on the road. Well, if you follow the channel, you already know that 8 months ago we did a little work to it and got it running for the first time in forever, and then moved it around the yard and parked it in the corner and never got back to it. But now I've got leaf springs for it, shocks. We could call it a lift kit, but it's really not a lift. We're just getting it going again with some fresh parts to replace some of the junk that was underneath it. The matching set of axles, so because the rear axle is destroyed. It's easier to just swap them out when you're doing what I'm doing anyhow. But hopefully we can get it back on the road and drive it and get it out of the yard and never have to worry about it just sitting back here again. So let's just jump right in and see if it starts again. I got some time, couple hours every other day over the next week, so we're gonna hit it in pieces. It looks like we're gonna spend an hour doing it, but really it's like 8 hours every other day for a week. So bear with me and let's see what happens, where we get to. Well, let's see if it'll start. Could be running out of gas. Yep. Well, we cleaned everything out of that tank. I knew there wasn't much left in it. I guess let me go get some fuel. Well, I got some gas in it. I'm gonna throw some fresh fuel in the bowl. And maybe I'll be happy. Maybe it'll run long enough to move around. Oh, it stinks in there. It's like an apartment brothel. Well, as it's running, let's take a peek here. This is what I'm driving on. And we got mice living in here again for the 6th time. It's an ugly old truck, I'm not even gonna lie. She's probably seen her better day. But we're gonna have fun with it. Alright. I gotta figure out what to do with the front end, how we set it up so we can get in there and get all this junk out. That's gonna be fun. Because there's no bed on the back, so you know, balancing on the frame up here, I don't know how well that's going to work. Probably going to tilt forward, but we got to get all this open so I can roll that out. So, let me figure that out. We'll bring you back when I got a plan. Well, as you can see, we've got it on a professional jack stand. And I'll tell you, I wouldn't suggest doing this at home. I've done this a bunch in my lifetime working on four-wheel drives, but it's very dangerous and it always scares me. You know, I'm puckering as I'm working, but I'm going to try and be smart and try not to be underneath it as much as possible. But we do have to get this done, and I only have limited time. A couple hours here, a couple hours there, so officially this is like day 3, but it's only 2 hours here or there in each of those 3 days. So in this 2 hours, we're going to try and get this calipers off both sides, shocks off both sides, disconnect this. I already disconnected the sway bar. But we'll get the shocks loose, the brake off, tie rod, or whatever you want to call that, cross rear link, whatever. And try to undo the leaves. And I probably should have already, before I jacked it up, undid the drive shaft.
but I didn't, so I'll have to do that also. But I'm gonna get you set up and kind of show you what we're doing. Alright, first off, hang this out of the way. No need to disconnect it because we're going to use it on the new axle. Because these brakes work. They were in good shape, 5 years ago when I parked it over there and moved it a couple more times and all that good stuff. Who knows what they do now? Yeah, they're usable. I wouldn't call it new. We'll just take a coat hanger and bend it through it. Like so. I'm not sure my coat hanger skills are up to par. Let's see if that heavy. Well, it's enough. Shock out. Gotta keep the spacer and the hardware because I'm pretty sure my new ones are not going to have all that, so we'll have to clean those up. Now we're on to the steering rod here. Well, at this point, we got everything off, so it's front bolt, rear bolt on each side. I already did the other side, got everything loose over there. And we can hopefully lay everything down as one unit. You know what I'm saying? And just drag it out from underneath here and start installing the springs, the new springs, and get the new axle in here and get some wheels on it, get it sitting back on itself as quick as possible. Well, we've got everything, all the bolts out all the way around. Everything's disconnected. We're going to lay the axle down and attempt to move it a little bit. Probably going to need some help or a tractor. But we're going to get it down and get it up out of here. I'm a little scared back there. Well, that worked about like I thought it was gonna. That's it on the ground. I'm not sure I can move it from there by myself. I might give it a shot here. So, as you can tell, the whole assembly is out. It's still laying in front of the truck, but it's out. We're put the other leaf in, and now I'm putting this one in. All I did is just hold it up, put the bolt through. both the front, then swing the rear up and get it in the rear. And this is probably the most dangerous part sitting on these tires, is because I had to get up underneath it. That's dangerous, but hopefully it goes smooth. You just lift it up, put the bolt in, and we're good to go. That went smooth, huh? And I got my new leaves in here now, arched and all that. So now that they're just sitting here, we're not tightening those up until we set it back on its own weight. Once it's back on its own weight, then we tighten those four down. But what we got to do now is get the other axle moved and get the one we're putting in set up underneath here so we can jack it up to these springs, you know, get it centered and new U-bolts and all that stuff on there. And then we can figure out how to set it back down safely so we can tighten up the rest of it. Voila, magic of TV. It's in. Not magic. I just got bored last night and I put the new axle in and put the U-bolts on and ran them up and got it lined and all that. And then I greased up the caliper pins and set my calipers back on it. And while I was in here, I went ahead and, made the whole frame new. Spray can new. But it's new. I wire brushed it a little bit. Well, a lot. Alright, well, I hung the shock. She's a little bit too long. We're going to have to squeeze up on her to get it all together. It's always fun. Do that the wrong way. Alright, fancy new shock. Fancy new shock. I gotta go get this arm and get it on there. Alright, moving right along. So, shocks, everything's all back together. We got the cotter pin in. Arms back on. Everything's loose still. U-bolts are tight, but they're not torqued. The front and rear pins are just in there. So, we're gonna get the wheel back on. But first, I thread chased all these lugs to make sure it was all going to go on smooth and new. And I got this lift kit from a company we all know, and I'm sure you know it looking at that shock. But I had to pay full price. So I'm not promoting for you. If I got to pay full price, I mean, what kind of junk is that? I'm not telling nobody. It was the cheapest kit I could get. And you probably know who it was. But I asked them when I did the bill, when I started thinking about doing this, I reached out and I said, hey, would you guys like to get on board? And they told me no. They said it would not be mutually beneficial for us to continue discussions. And I thought, well, that was a nice way to say, well, fella, you're too small for us. So I bought the kit because, like I said, it was the cheapest one out there. And I stuck it on. But I'm not advertising for you. I mean, not even a discount? Not even a discount. Okay. Rant over. Let's get the wheel on. And I got a surprise for that because I'm not putting those aluminum wheels back on it. I already got the other side on and done, but I'm not doing the aluminum wheels. I got some old wagon wheels that I wire brushed and, made brand new again. No, but they'll suffice for the old turd. I know. That ain't bad. It's just an old wagon wheel. And like I said, the tire's too small. But look, I got 4 of those and they match, and some wire wheeling and some new spraying, and they suffice for a little while. They look halfway decent. Tires, it's a little small. It could be a little bigger, but we've been used to the old raggedy 35s. So now I got to get down here, get the jack out, which means I got to jack it up and get my, tires out from back there and my jack stand. Get it on the ground and start torquing everything down. And well, I got to get the drive shaft back in too. That's key. But we're you know, it's going to be on its own weight here in two minutes. 2 minutes. Let me start getting all this. This is I got to get it up high. So let me get on this, and I'll bring you back as we, get ready to drop her down. Well, apparently that tire needs air. Ha! But what do you think about that wheel? I got a beauty ring that I put on the other side. I think I like that better with the beauty ring. But it don't look too bad on the old K10, you know? That's not shabby, right? It's a little small, but that's not too bad. Well, now that we got the truck on a certified, frame jack stand, got the rear end off the ground, I tried for a little while to get these lines loose and they just would not pop. I got 3 of the 4 to pop loose, but they're seized to the steel line now. And I'm not messing with it, so I'm just going to get 2 new steel lines and a new rubber line. So I just cut it there, disconnected the emergency brake, and popped off the U-bolts on each side. So we're just free. And this old diff can come on out of here. Maybe. Maybe not. I should just be able to roll it back, to be honest with you. And roll it right out from underneath the old truck. Might need 2 hands for that. It looks like I'm going to need 2 hands for this. Maybe not. Maybe so. Hey. One rear diff out. Alright, now that it's out, I was debating on replacing these springs, but they look pretty solid still. So, I'm going to do the world famous, wire brush and rust reformer and just clean them up so they kind of match the rest of it. God, I hate doing this. It seems like everything I touch, I got a rust reformer. Hopefully that centering pin hangs in there. But it might not. Who knows? But that's where we're at now. And I get the other diff over here rolled in, bolted in, and then we're doing brakes. I hate brakes. I hate brakes with a passion. Well, as you can see, our new used axle is in the truck now. And the springs are painted up somewhat. And now we can get it up off of our redneck jack stand frame, whatever you want to call it. That is what those wheels look like before I painted them. Let me show you the front one again. Wire brushed and painted with a beauty ring, and how they looked before I did the wire brushing and painting. So listen, we're using what we got and we're putting it back on the road. So now I'm on to brakes. So I'm gonna jack it up and get my tire stand out from underneath it, see how it sits. Be sure we're at the right height and all that we wanted. And then I'm gonna knock the wheels off and we'll start tearing into the brakes, because, well, brakes are key. All right.
Sitting on its own 2 feet.
4 feet, whatever the case may be. But look at how it sits. Had we put that 2-inch block in the back, well, damn, that rear end be standing up. Standing up. I don't understand. Try to get you in here so you can see the leaf. That's not an arch. I mean, that's just a flat leaf, so I don't know where they got 2 inches of lift from. They just wished it was 2 inches, so they raised the rear 2 inches. I don't know. Not happy with that. Could have used my springs I had over there for that matter. But here we are now. We got it on the ground. Got the axle in. We got to start attacking brake situation. New lines and drums. We got to do all that now. So I guess it's about to rain on me now, I think. So I guess I'll just get set up to do one wheel at a time. And let's get into it. I don't know if I've told you this probably 100 times before, actually, but I hate brakes. I mean, I hate them with a passion. I hate brakes. I'm gonna have to get the big hammer out to free this old girl up. Great! More wire wheel and fun. Well, as you can see, it's brake time. And I already did the other side. Of course, one side is always getting done. And then I got these nifty tools. A lot of people just use vice grips. Hell, I use vice grips a bunch myself, but I figured, why not show everybody brake pliers? And these aren't exactly, you can't really use these for everything on a GM, but they're pretty handy. I mean, if you got a pair. I wouldn't say rush out and buy them, but if you got them, they're great. So, a lot of people think you'd be grabbing with this, but that's not the case. You use this side here. And you get it up underneath that spring and just rotate it. And that one's off. And the same thing here. Come on, girl. And, well, that's done. You could use vice grips. Do one side at a time. That way, if you mess something up or get confused, you can just look at the other side. I mean, if you know what you're doing, then by all means, just do it. And that should be the brake situation. Alright, cleaned up, painted, all that good stuff. Well, brake drum is on. And then I got my new line here. They were a little long. I don't know what happened. I measured them wrong. I don't know. But anyhow, new lines. Everything's looking, you know, like it should. I think this is my, probably have to cut that, but that's my breather tube for the rear diff. Stick that back on. Huh? we're looking good. I gotta bleed them, and that part sucks. I need help for that. I need someone to pump the pedal while you know that drill. Bummer. And I sanded this wheel, wire brushed this one. I gotta wipe it down and paint it. And I gotta wire brush all this junk off of this wheel and paint it. And then I think we're done. I mean, we can, oh, I gotta get diff fluid. I gotta get something every time. Well, I thought you might want to see it. Sanded down, not sanded, I lied. Wire brushed. And we're not even gonna bother. It's a flat paint, but we're not gonna bother taking this off. Who cares? Well, that's the first coat. And we'll put 2 or 3 of those on it. Of the rust reforming primer paint stuff. Both the other side and this side, 2 more coats, and well, then it's going on the truck. And we're just gonna let it be what it is for now. And we took an old junkyard wheel and refreshed it a bit. We got the other shock on. I haven't cut the strap off of it, but that shock is on. And now we're gonna do this shock. And world famous Jess Nicole is doing the shock. That's cake work. Yeah, you gotta figure out where the other side is. You got it lined up?
Yes.
Yep. Yep. Is there a washer? Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the nut. One of those. One side's dirty, one side. Okay. You just turn it until it stops. And it'll be alright. You have to tighten it down. Now, world famous Jess Nicole.
Silly.
This is where the fun part begins. When you pop the strap,
It's gonna shoot out.
well, I don't know about shooting out, but it's going to come out.
I do not want to go back. I'm not feeling like progress is being made here. Bit of a job, huh?
A bit of a job. We just gotta get that in far enough now to...
Famous after this.
Here, let me see. I gotta grab the... There's a washer somewhere. Here we go. I'll use this one. And this won't work. Not getting on fire enough. Shocks are on. And, well, I already bled the brakes because nobody wants to watch that. Pump, you know, up, down, up, down, a bunch of times. Air's out. So, cleaned all the junk out of the inside, and now we got to wash that. But I went to fire it up real quick just to make sure she still ran. The carburetor, that sucked a bunch of trash into it and quit squirting. So, this is the third time that the carb has sucked trash up. So I just went ahead and took the carb off and cleaned it out, and I disconnected this, and I got a new fuel filter because, well, that fuel filter is nasty. And I hooked up the boat tank because I want to be sure that it's going to run clean gas, clean fuel system, and it's just going to run no problems. And then I know, you know, that all the junk that's in the tank is what is causing, you know, the constant carburetor problem. So, another problem arises, but I don't have all the stuff to get back on that right now. So, I'm going to throw down some Dawn dish soap and use my little spinny brush real quick, and we're just going to kind of wash this down because it's grody, and I've probably got to paint it or do something to it when I put the seat in it, or before I put the seat in it, or it's just nasty and it stinks in here, and we're going to try and get some of that out. So let's get tightened up on that. Alright, let's hose out the gut. I know you're probably like, what are you doing? But look, it was foul in here. Now hopefully it won't be so foul. Well, Yellow Brock's got it running again on the boat tank. All I did was take the top off and spray that out, put a new filter on it, stick it on the boat tank, and we got clean fuel running in, and she's purring. Straight manifold. It's got a little smoke happening, but I assumed it was going to do that after a couple of years of not running. It might actually be a knock. It's kind of hard to hear exactly with the open manifolds, but it's purring again. There's some blow-by for sure. And we got the interior scrubbed out. You know, we can get the seat in it. But here's the issue we have is that, well, we got to clean this tank. Again, I'm going to have to pump everything out of it and probably take it back down, and I don't want to do all that. I don't want to do it, is what I'm saying. But it's running all right. Big girl's gonna be on the road soon.
Hard to drive it on this rickety old broken. And it's got brakes. And it's running.
Now, I gotta get in here and clean out this fuel tank. That's wonderful. But, I mean, I don't know. I don't know if we should throw that bed on it or not, but I want to do a flatbed. But that's down the road. We got to figure out the tank now. Get this tank cleaned out so it'll run on its own tank. What? Because we're running on the boat tank right now. Just to be sure it's going to run. I mean, what more can I say? It's running. It's not in the greatest shape, but we're 1, 5, 10 steps ahead of where we were when we started on it, you know? It's Patches is going to be on the road soon. Alright, let's try and get the big girl up in here. Push against the door. Hold on, we're catching the... Okay, come on. You have to lift your side up. Alright. Here, like we're lining up. Well, there's our old dirty seat. It's not in. I mean, but the bolt... Well, let's not look right there right now. It appears like the bolt holes are going to line up. And then I probably got to slide it back. All those good things, but... Let's try it. There you go. There's a better view. We got something place to put our behind and do the shifting things. Alright, let me tighten down those 4 bolts and then we're going to get that diff fluid done. Alright, got the chisel for the little edge to try and get up in behind it, huh? Yep. It's sealed on there pretty good with no little lip to pry on, so I'm gonna have to try and tap up behind it. Probably not gonna work either, huh? Mind you, this is an old, tore up chisel. There we go. That don't look too bad. I don't see any water in it. Don't look too bad. Alright, there goes some numbers. There's some math equation to this though, right? It looks like an 8. Oh, that's a 3. 4314. That sounds like 307s, right? I was thinking about it when I grabbed the razor blade. I couldn't find my phone. But 43 divided by 14 is like a 3, I don't know, 310, 307. I'm going to say that the tag is correct and it's a 307. You can do the math. You're probably looking at your phone. We're basically just bathing it. Trying to, blow out any dirt particles or anything that might have a little bit of metal in it. Alright, as you can see, cover's back on. And I painted it, but then I scratched it up putting it back in, so that's normal. And we're just going to throw some fluid in it now. So you squirt in about a half a bottle of Lucas first, if you can get it to your destination. It's going to be yummy. I'm just going to have to half guzzle it from here, but it's harder to get in these front diffs because of the steering rod. But you just get your half bottle of Lucas in there first. Then top it off with your gear oil. Might be rub gear oil all over everything. Let's see. That's pretty full. It's at the overflow point, as you can clearly see. So now the diff is full. Well, it wouldn't be normal if it didn't start raining on me. So I have to take a small pause. Get my mess. I'm gonna take a small pause before I can continue on because I gotta get out in the rain and I don't want to do all that. But I took the grill out and set it over there. It didn't fit. It's wrong ear. And I had to change brackets, so I'm just gonna set it to the side for now. We're not gonna mess with it. The pipe's making a bunch of noise as water drains. So let's let the storm pass and then we'll take the rear diff cover off and inspect that and refill it. And we got to torque down the U-bolts
and take it for a drive. Finally, get to drive the old girl. Right. Well, it rained almost all day yesterday, so I couldn't get much film, but we did get the diff cleaned out, cover painted, and put back on. There was a little bit of material in there, so I threw those 2 neodymium magnets on there to try and catch anything that might be left in there. I flushed it out real good like we did the front, but just for safety, just try and catch anything in there. And I torqued down all the U-bolts except for this outside, and I thought, let me go get the camera and let me see. I'm actually torquing them down, guys. They're not just, you know, finger tightening them. And then I think we're on the road. I got to double check that I tightened down all the shock towers or shock bolts, because I think I left the front bottoms loose and the back bottoms loose. So let's get our shocks torqued. And on these, they're calling for 90 foot-pounds on these U-bolts. So that's what we're doing. 90 foot-pounds. I think it's 87, but you know who's counting. Good. And we're going to be ready to ride. I can't wait to drive this turd. Huh? 90 foot-pounds. She's torqued. Alright, let's cold start this joker. Got the boat tank in place. Pump. It's awfully cold-blooded, I'll tell you that. It don't sound good, huh? She's running. See if it'll idle. Trying to. Come on, girl. It is what it is. I think she's good enough to go warm up. What? Waiting? Oh.
running super lean. Could be that, you know, it ain't warmed up yet. But I've been fighting carburetor and fuel on this thing for a long time now, so it doesn't surprise me that it's running lean. Could also be a wiped cam. You know, we might actually have the fuel correct, but the cam is wiped. It seems like it runs better the more it warms up, though. Let's get the hood back open here. Try to choke it a little bit here. Nope. Now it's getting fuel. Probably got a white cam in the old girl, huh? There's some backfiring happening out of one side. It's just not exactly happy. Got some popping happening. I think the Ocoee FL has just seen its day. We're gonna let it idle a little bit, warm up, and then we'll take it for a spin again with you inside, and we'll see if it runs any better after it warmed up. Brakes.
It's just flat. Feels like a bad cam. I could be wrong though.
It's running better now, though. I just need to let it keep idling, keep running. I definitely hear a knock. This old 305 is just tired, huh? Now let me let it run a little bit, do some checking and figuring, and we'll get back with you.
Yep. Got the headlight bezel back in. It don't look so raggedy. Well, it still does with no grill.
But we got the headlight bezel in, and I found the turn signal for this side. We still need a grill, and it's still running pretty rough.
We're going to give it a couple days of driving on it before we decide what we're going to do, but at least it's back on the road. I mean, I don't know about back on the road. It's drivable, you know? I can say that much. It's drivable. But what do we do? You know, what do we do with it now? Do we continue on? Do we call it a day? Do we say, that's a rough truck? I mean, it is a rough truck.
I mean, look, we're come around though. I mean, we got a seat to sit in, and it fires up and drives, and well, I still gotta nose the front up on some ramps to get all the fuel to the back of the tank here, and then put the vac in there and suck the rest of that out. And the inside of this tank looks good, just has some water in it. And we'll pretend we didn't see the 2x4 body mount for right now. At least we know it needs body mounts, but it's a square body. I mean, it's a square body. Do I need to say more? The hood, it's junk. It leaks all around the cowl, and it's bent, and well, it don't shut exactly right, but it latches. You know, it latches and it holds down, so we'll just leave it for now. But I don't know. Let me let it cool down, because I want to get a heat cycle or two and see how it sounds when we fire it back up. And we'll take it for one more spin. And you can ride along. And yeah, and see if it does any better than it has all morning, because all morning it's just not been good. You know, for all this work, we was really hoping that I'd never driven the truck more than around my yard, you know, so, and it's never ran great. But the motor sounds good. It just, like I said, it seems like we got some wiped lobes on the cam. And that's no bueno.
Ride number 2. See what we get. We had like fewer doo-doo earlier. That cam I'm almost positive of. soon as you give it any type of gas, it wants to buck. Get your brakes though. Bucking. Brake check.
We're stopping.
Stop. Yeah. It is what it is. Well, off camera, I played with the timing a bit and realized that the harmonic balancer has spun on itself. The outer casing is spun and the timing mark is not correct. And so I got it as close to on time now as we can get it without, you know, marking the. Basically, I just twisted on her back and forth until I found the sweet spot and realized that we do have an exhaust valve on the passenger side that's not quite sealing right. And that's probably the valve that was open for all the years it's been sitting. And maybe it'll come around when we drive it, but it's on good enough time now where she's got power and it's not missing. But it is a tired old motor. So now that she's running and we're going to do something with it, do we pull the heads off and mess with the 305 or do we rebuild the 350 out back and put that in there? Do we put a bed on it? Or do we make a flatbed? I don't rightfully know what I want to do yet. But we're going to do something with it. So maybe you get down in the comments there and what would you like to see? Would you like to see us take this 305 apart? Probably not. Can we just stuff a good running 350 in it? Do we go automatic? Do we leave it granny low 4-speed? What do we do with the pickup now? Because we're going to do something. There's going to be another episodes or two, or we're driving her now. We're going to do something with it. That's what I'm saying. So, I appreciate you watching, and we'll see what happens in the future with it. Like to hear what you guys think. Thanks for all your support, and we'll see you the next time we pop the hood on whatever we pop the hood on.